about your friend that,
Oh,
that
Betty,
had a husband on
yeah,
Lake.
Betty Theron was her name, and she was here, came back with her to be with her family who was here, and I think he was Army, and her husband was on Wake, and he was captured, and she was here. She was one of the people that I felt that could communicate with. He was a Marine aviator, you know, so
She didn't know whether he was alive or not.
no, yeah.
Now, when you're out in the Pacific during this time period, how often are you two able to communicate by mail?
Whenever we had time to write,
It was
or whether he had a chance to write.
the mail came in sporadically. We would maybe go for 2 or 3 weeks without any mail and then get several letters at one time, things like that.
When you were in the Pacific, did you know what was going on in the European theater?
Yes, vaguely. Yes, but not on Guadalcanal. We didn't know much about what was going on during that period. We were so engrossed in our own problems there, but we got a little bit of news, and I had a radio at that time, which would pick up news and from various. I could pick up Hawaii, New Zealand, and Tokyo Rose. It was kept broadcasting that we were all dead and things like that, or soon to be.
No.
And do you want to tell us a little bit more about Tokyo Rose? Is there anything else you want?
No, I don't really know much about it.
Did it?
I had a shortwave radio that it was a personal radio that I carried out and kept in my tent out there, and in the evening we'd tune in to get some news occasionally.
But did it have any type of effect on morale at all? Tokyo Rose, was it?
I don't know. I suppose it had some effect, but I didn't. We sort of laughed at some of the things she said, and it didn't have any great effect on me or the people immediately around me.
Right. Now you were, both of you, I guess, kind of move on to another question, is where were both of you when you found out that the Japanese had capitulated, had surrendered?
I was on Guam.
You were on
We'd
Guam.
loaded ship ready to make the invasion.
Mm.
I don't know where you were.
Well, I was back in Atlanta. This was August the 10th, 1945. This week has been a week of wonder and awe. On Monday, August the 6th, the government announced the dropping of an atomic bomb on Hiroshima, Japan. It is the first atomic bomb in the history of the world. To some, the bomb has been frightening, but to me, it has been more for a sign that surely the good forces are overcoming the evil forces. It is miraculous that the bomb should be perfected by America rather than Germany by Japan. Then on August the 7th, well, it tells about Prussia. This morning, while taking my exercises, I heard that Tokyo had announced the surrender if could be kept, well, something. I know that the nations won't give in to what they wanted. August 14th, it has taken this long for something to break. This morning, President Truman just announced that Japan has accepted the Potsdam Ultimatum unconditionally. Until I wrote these down, as I heard them over the radio here in Atlanta in my parents' home. I was back here at that time. This news has been broadcasted by all of the Allies simultaneously. Clement Attlee. This is one has ended. And so that was, and then August 1945.
Go ahead.
this is the first Sunday of peace in the world for 3 years since the Japanese surrender. Emissaries have at last arrived in Manila. I feel that peace is actually en route. I'm glad that the Americans were not soft with the introduction of the super duper bomber and the controlled bombs. It seems to me that there will be less for many an army. I wonder if there will be a future for us. With both Carl and my background, it seems that we have something with which to work. I wonder where we will be. Lord, I thank thee for the peace. Let us all find the part to be played by us in this life now. And it was a good talking with Betty Theron. This is the girl whose husband was was a POW. I'm so thankful that Colonel was able to, I'm sorry, I can't read anymore. Anyway,
Colonel Theron.
Yeah, Colonel Theron, all right, she feels that he is free, this Betty Theron, whose husband was awake, POW, right, so,
Let's see if they have any more.
I guess, well, we've kind of jumped ahead a little bit, but what was the feeling both in the Pacific and here in the States when you found out the Germans had surrendered?
Just felt great about it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there?
I was more wrapped up in the Pacific, naturally.
Well, of course.
And of course, it said something in here about Russia, about Prussia, various things I did put down, but it was different out in the Pacific.
Yeah, and which is going to kind of lead to one question, and that is, how did you feel then? Well, we know how you felt about the dropping of the atomic bomb from the diary. What were your thoughts on it?
I thought it was great. I was curious as to whether it came from Guam or Tinian. I knew we were flying B-29s off of Guam, and I was on Guam. And then the next island up, Tinian, was where the plane, the Enola Gay that dropped the bomb, took off from. So we were just curious about who had the bomb and where it came from. Of course, we were all delighted that the bomb was dropped, and we didn't know that it was going to cause peace. We thought we might still have to make the invasion, but we knew it was going to help.
What had been the general sentiment among the men about a proposed invasion of Japan? Most people think this was going to be bad news.
Yes, yes, we did. We thought it would. We would take a lot of casualties if we went in there.
It's generally been, the other folks we have talked to about the Pacific Theater is that everybody generally thought this was going to be higher casualties than we had ever seen.
Oh, yes.
Anything.
Yes.
You stayed in the Marine Corps?
Yes, I stayed in for 28 years.
And what did you, you don't have to go in a great detail, but what did you do for your remainder of the time that you were in the Marine Corps?
Well, I had duty back in the States in Washington, down at the Naval Air Station, Jacksonville, Florida. I went to Armed Forces Staff College. I did a lot of work in Washington. I was in the Korean War. I spent 9 months out there. I was a division inspector, and then I had a regiment. I was a regimental commander in Korea. Just after the lines had stabilized, sort of on the parallel there. And then I ended up by doing I had a tour of duty in Japan, and my family went with me. I was on the staff in Japan from 57 till, well, 55 to 57. Uh,
California.
California, and with training units, went out to Taiwan and trained Chiang Kai-shek's people to invade China, to go back and take over China, which of course he never did and that probably never could have, but we gave his Marines amphibious training. And then spent about 6 years in Washington doing staff duty.
Now, when you were deployed to Korea, you said you had a regimental command.
Yes.
What type of regiment was it?
An infantry regiment.
Infantry regiment.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about Korea, about your whole experience there.
Well, the division was the 1st Marine Division there, and when I joined, it was on the East Coast, which was in the mountainous area. It was very cold, and we then got orders to move across the peninsula and take over the area along the West Coast. And I was division inspector at that time, so I came along with a few people to check on, be sure that our dumps were reasonably covered over and that it picked up any of the trucks that had broken down and things like that. And then after we got to the East Coast, I became a regimental commander of the 7th Marine Regiment. And we were employed along the Panmunjom corridor, which was the Panmunjom led up to where the peace negotiations were going on, and they had started about that time. Of course, they lasted for 2 or 3 years before they ever ended. We were dug in along a hilly, mountainous area there, but it was interesting that I could safely drive my Jeep out the corridor almost to Panmunjom and take my binoculars and look back at my own front lines and see how well we had camouflaged. The corridor was very narrow, about less than a mile wide, but it was fairly safe to do that. And we had the Korean Marines on my left, and we had the British Marines on the right, and I made contact with them. And we had quite a bit of fighting there too at that time, because there was a great push. In the peace negotiations were such that the line that was going to be drawn across to settle the peace, the line was to be wherever whatever people held at that time, whatever each side held. And so the Chinese were still pushing in with the North Koreans to try to take over as much as they could. And they came in and attacked our outposts. They came in and tried to break through our lines a few times. And, so we still had quite a few casualties there. It was rather frustrating knowing that we weren't in a real war. It was sort of a police action, and people were drafted and sent there. But we didn't get, it wasn't an all-out support that we thought we should have been getting. And our lines were spread very thin, and we took a fair number of casualties there. So.
One question from the Korean War, which obviously it comes to mind, is you being on the ground in Korea, right there at the front, when Truman relieved MacArthur MacArthur, what were your thoughts on that, and what was the sentiment of the guys on the ground?
Well, we were a little bit removed from it. MacArthur was back in Tokyo and
Sure.
conducting the war. We were startled by it, but and we thought that MacArthur was right. The Marines during World War II, we sort of were in competition with MacArthur. We were part of the naval forces that Admiral Nimitz commanded to make the drive across the Pacific. MacArthur was coming up from Australia, and we thought MacArthur was too much of a publicity hound, I guess, at that time. And but in Korea, he did great. He used the 1st Marine Division to break out of the peninsula area, and then we Marines made the landing up at Incheon and broke out, which we thought he was smart to do that. We thought that MacArthur was right that to propose to use the bomb. We were in favor of what he proposed, to use the bomb up there. So we I guess we didn't have strong feelings. I didn't personally have strong feelings one way or the other about it at that time.
It's interesting, though, to get, from our perspective, reading how historians interpret it.
Yeah.
My interest is more, what did you guys that were there think, and that's useful.
Well, we were too busy with our own little problems
So, yeah, I bet.
to worry too much about the high command at that time, right?
Sure. Go ahead.
Mrs. Moore, what were you doing while Mr. Moore was in Korea?
Let's see.
I was in Korea.
In Korea. Let's see, we went
You came back to Atlanta.
Atlanta again and stayed. Well, and that's when I went down to Bradenton, I guess. No, it wasn't
No,
either,
no,
because those people down in Bradenton
Oh, you stayed in
were
Atlanta.
Army people whose husbands were over there in Europe, and I would hear about what I kept in touch with what was going on in Europe. One way
Oh,
was because
you were in
these.
Atlanta. Answer the question.
Yeah, I
yes.
was in Atlanta, but
Yeah.
then let's see. Anyway, I want to say this about being aware of what was going on in the rest of the world. I was very much aware of it. When we were on the ship going out there to Hawaii, I remember some of the older wives, service wives, keyed into the radio announcement about Hitler and when he started to cross, and that was something they were real concerned about. And then also, as I was in Atlanta, I was keeping track of what was going on in the rest of the world. And at the time, I didn't realize that, I believe it was Guadalcanal was the same time that the Battle of Stalingrad was taking place. We noticed that when we went over to Russia, that it was the same time. But sort of those things didn't sort of connect, that we didn't have the interpretive newscast that we have now right there on the spot, and that sort of thing. So in Atlanta, when I came back, with my family, I was doing things in the community with the church and with the family and with a daughter and that sort of thing. We didn't have a second child until the war was over, and that was when he was down at the Naval Air Station at Jackson, where he was a CO. He was there, and the son was born down there. And we went to Washington, and then out to California, and I was involved with the Girl Scouts out in California and other places too. And when in Washington, well, we were involved with Scouts, he was involved with the Boy Scouts too, and the church community. Well, that was after the World War II experience.
Is there anything else either one of you want to add, or?
Some things we'd like to subtract probably if we. see
Yeah,
it, but
right,
not-
we've added whatever we've said.
Not to add.
No, but, well, I want to say that when I left Hawaii, we had had a Japanese maid to look after the child, our daughter, when I could go out to go shopping or something like that. And she came after the war started, after Mom's dropped on December the 7th, and she heard we were leaving, and so she presented me with this, and she said, my native land no longer Japan. I live here. This is my home. She had been from Japan, but I thought that was an interesting thing that happened as a result of that. How some of the people out there felt, some of the Japanese felt.
Well,
Oh, I'm sorry, go ahead.
well, during the war, the Japanese were animals to us. They had attacked us, and killing them was something we needed to do to survive. It was either the Japanese or us. And but after the war, we had a tour of duty in Japan, and we got to know some Japanese people and joined the American Japanese Society, and found out they're human beings also. We still feel that way, I believe.
I remember you invited me to a dinner there once, and they had brought a Japanese woman who had been to the United States. She had been damaged by the bomb, but she sat there and talked with us. Right. And let's see.
I have nothing else to add, do you?
No.
When did you finally retire from the Marine Corps?
1964.
1964. And what did you do after that?
I got a master's degree in education at George Washington University. We were on duty in Washington at that time. I wanted to come back and teach school, and I came back to Atlanta and taught in the Atlanta public school system, taught mathematics for about 6 years, and then I became a house husband for 2 years. She was employed, and I was fired from that job and went to work out at Emory University for 11 years. Retired from there in '85.
And what did you do at Emory?
Administrative work.
And Ms. Moore, what did you do?
Oh,
Were you employed?
yes. When we were living in Washington, when we became empty nesters, I decided with backing of my husband to go ahead and see if I could get a civil service job, which I did. I was employed at first at a very top level job as a temporary at the Pentagon, and we were living close by, so I figured that was one reason I got it, walk to work, that sort of thing. And then that ended, and then I worked with Strategic Communications Command. When Carl moved, we decided to come back to Atlanta. Well, I was not able to continue with a job with the Army because they didn't have a slot here for a civilian employee. So I found a job with General Services Administration, Federal Supply Service, and worked until I could retire. So we were doing that, and our children were going off elsewhere, making their careers, getting started. And my parents were still here living in Atlanta. So I have these ties with the civil service employees. I have these friends that gathered around that I grew up with in Atlanta, and they've We have social affairs and things like that, and alumni gatherings, and oh yes, and I joined the Historical Society. Somewhere along in the way, I've forgotten what year, I don't have any record of that. But in 1968, I had attended a meeting of the Atlanta Historical Society and met Franklin Garrett. And I think I met Franklin Garrett when he was in Atlanta, working for Coca-Cola or something like that. And so I applied for membership and just made some comment about what I'd been doing. And so he wrote me this letter, November the 1st, 1968. Dear Ms. Moore, I was good indeed hearing from you under the date of October 27th, and you may be assured that the Atlanta Historical Society will welcome a reinstatement of your membership. The usual document to provide for this is enclosed. Somewhere along the time when I was back in Atlanta, I had contacted Ms. Ruth Blair, and she was living at the Biltmore, and also she had later on over at the house over on Peach Street, she became a Archives, Georgia. She was over there sometime. I can't remember. I don't have that written down anywhere. But I've been very much interested in the History Center all through the years.
Well, I have some papers on file in the History Center,
Oh, yes,
a paper
do.
that I gave to the Atlanta Symposium. The Symposium is a group of men that 10 or 12 men that met every month. Franklin Garrett has long been the president of that. I resigned. Old Beverly DuBose was a member, and then Beau DuBose later on became a member. People who have worked for the society. And we would give a paper each month. Somebody would give a paper, and we stored those papers in the here in the Historical Center. So I have a paper in there on Guadalcanal, I believe. I have a paper about Kimmel and Short. And I have a paper about another Marine General, Puller, and which was wartime papers. So they are stored under the Atlanta Symposium file back in there.
And I don't know whether this is still in the files over here or not, but this was written 1989 to Ms. Mary Carter Whitten, and it was concerned Pearl Harbor Survivors meeting. This was in August. Before that, I had written to Mr. McDaniel, and
Well, you appeared on the stage over here for a
with
program.
the Pearl Harbor Survivors with Ed Eves.
Yeah.
That was, but this was.
So, and that was videoed. They made a tape of that too.
Yes, they did.
So that's somewhere maybe in your file.
Yes, I don't know whether we have that or not, whether we got a copy of it or not. But these letters were written to, I don't know, Director of Education and Interpretation in Public Progress. And that was Mary Carter, Atlanta Historical Society.
I think we've taken up enough of
Yeah,
our
I think
time.
so too. 2 hours, you know that.
Yeah, that's a long time.
Well, I tell you what, we certainly appreciate y'all taking the time because we couldn't do it without your input.
He got involved in establishing memorial out there for Americans, and we went out there, and Ray Davis.
Oh, I'm gonna get a shot of that.
Mm.
So he was a part of this organization?
Oh, Guadalcanal, yes, he board ship. We were there out in the area, and a group of men decided there should be something done for the allies who fell there at Guadalcanal who participated, and so wonderful memorial has been established there. It's been turned over to National Commission of Battlefields, I believe is what it is. And we were out there for that dedication. So we were at Guadalcanal. He took me to Guadalcanal. We had been to Taipei just on a cruise, and then we had been to up to Korea to the up to the DMZ line, and then we went out to Midway just recently to see. It's been Midway's been turned over to the Fish and Wildlife. So
I was wondering if you had been back to some of these places, and you have, obviously.
and he's taken me.
Well, we set up a memorial on Guadalcanal.
Yeah, I was just telling him about that.
Okay.
And then about let's see, we went by Taiwan from on a cruise from Japan over to Korea when we were in Japan. Well, that was before things were taking place there, but let's see, we've been up to the DMZ line rather recently. And then, as I said, we were out at Midway just about in '98, wasn't it? And saw where his gun emplacement was, a concrete thing, and saw all those goony birds out there, and found his gun out there that they had mounted up out there. Yeah.
So your gun was still there on Midway?
As far as we're concerned.
Well, there was a gun there.
A gun there.
It was a Navy 5-inch gun.
Well, I said it was one of our guns.
Yeah,
So, yes.
yeah.
All right, tell me about these things right here. We got the camera on them, and
Oh, all right.
start
With the shrapnel
start down
first.
here and move our way up.
All right. The shrapnel is the first thing that we had visible to us coming and down the air into our yard, into the canal where we were living close by the Pearl Harbor there. And this was picked up that afternoon. Some of it was picked up that afternoon. I was afraid to venture out into the yard. Carl was gone, and I didn't know what I was going to find out around the corner there. But I remember walking out and seeing some of this, and then thinking also that this was what the people in Europe had been going through for a long time. Now, what do I do? So then after Carl and I got back together in the house, we walked around again and picked up all that stuff, and he identified what it was. After the war had been underway a few weeks, the dependents were issued these dog tags. I guess everybody had a dog tag, did they? Yeah, so I had that and kept it. My daughter had one too. And then this is a lathe that the Japanese lady gave to me when I left Hawaii to come back to the States after December the 7th. It was in March when I left, and she presented that to me and said though she had apparently been born in Japan, she said now her home was in America, U.S. Her bones would not be going back to Japan. She would wanted to be an American. So.
And you kept, and these are your diaries back
And
here.
these are my diaries that I kept starting on December the 7th. And this was a diary telling about our trip by the ship from Paris Island down through the canal zone, San Diego, and on out to Hawaii. And this was a diary my sister had given me to keep track, and this shows pictures of like Panama Canal, and things like that, and then arriving in Hawaii, and it ended. Here we were in Hawaii, seeing the Hula Girls dance, and then I added to it later on. This was on board ship. There were two friends. Something to do, pass away the time, you know, and that sort of thing. Then this was one that I started keeping after came back to the United States. To try to keep track of what was happening in June '42. 42. Well, I'm still 42, August the 4th, 42. I'm still wondering where Carl is. The letter of July 20th said he thought it'd be several weeks before I could hear from him again. From the map, I have figured out all sorts of places. And so this continued on, and I'd skipped some time in 43, October 15th, 1943. There's a terrific battle raging in the Solomons. Actions about Japanese. So I guess that means that Carl's work is in his 5-inch gun is being utilized. Strange it is that I should be glad that he can see his gun in action. The commentators and tell us about what's going on. And so then it ended on D-Day, telling about the atomic bomb, quoting some of the people in the news media, communications, what they were saying.
Great. Well, we certainly appreciate both of you coming out.
Thank you.